player customization on the UI similar to EQ's style. We'll have to see.
Are we talking visual, or are we talking like completely like reconfiguring what the inventory like window?
Yeah, that's the thing. So I'm like hesitating to say my opinion because it may be unpopular, but hey, to start with and just initially, I'm thinking that the ability to move elements around and resize certain elements, etc., is good, and maybe we put in like our default take along with a more sort of streamlined or minimalist look, and then that's that for now. And depending on what the guys on the code side say, look at whether or not it's easy to support people like making their own skins and modifications. So what I want to avoid is it turning into there are elements devised through whatever means that become sort of a mandatory means of playing the game that people then have to get. I think that's that's the only like real concern. Like if people want to download, you know, some new aesthetic design and modification to the elements or whatever, I don't know that I care as much as the idea of now everybody's got to download a DPS meter. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm out of date in my thinking. Maybe I'm just off base or whatever. But that's what comes to mind.
My take is that it's probably okay if we allow them to like log, you know, do logging, and then if they want some of those features, they can, you know, develop something for it, but not like through the game, you know, not a in-game supported thing.
So Stoic asks, how would you stop it if it's a community that sets a requirement on itself? It's an interesting question. I think the first question is, do we provide access to the data required to be able to support the specific element or alteration? Then yeah, as Thakor said, if logs exist, DPS meters will exist, trying to fight a losing battle. I think one of the other things to consider too is in developing the game, are we making a game that actually benefits from that type of mod in the first place?
I mean, the way you'd stop it is not allow logging, but I think that would be a little bit harsh. Not supporting it in the game, I mean, it's still a difference than just supporting it because it's, you know, possible otherwise. I think not a lot of people, at least a lot of the casual people that play EverQuest, have to deal with DPS meters because it's just not in the game. But the people that want to deal with DPS meters, they have to go out of their way to kind of get that set up, and it's not like supported through the game. They have to, you know, create their own program and, you know, utilize logging and stuff like that. I think that's usually enough of a barrier to entry to make it, you know, the game not feel like you need one or people are judging you all the time, because not a lot of people are using them. This comes from somebody who uses Gina, NParse, and GameParse like 24/7 on P99. So
yeah, so I think as you guys are saying, and as Nick was just saying, I think it's probably something where the ability to do it's not, you know, it's not like we're going to go out of our way to try to stop it. I think that if we, and again, I'm speaking just personal point of view, I think that if we make the type of game where it's not that big a part of the game, then I'll be happy. If our game's not one where, you know, if you want to min-max and you want to basically just be as sweaty as humanly possible, you can, but there's not as much of a benefit to it as potentially other games that you could play. I mean, for me, like this type of content that we're doing right now, just sitting, camping something, grinding out experience or whatever, like this is what I enjoy. I think we've been pretty upfront about that fact since the beginning. We'll provide some amount of content that varies in different ways for different folks. Building a game around a specific style of gameplay, and then allowing for some other stuff, but not over time sort of changing to focus on one of those other types of playing the game is just the better move. Another angle to look at is if your raids have any type of in-depth mechanics to them. Guild leadership can review the logs to see if everyone is subpar if anyone is subpar and be able to work with them to have more veteran player the same class, work with them to help them improve, so that it can be used as a learning tool.
The mechanical like skill requirement, we're making sure that that's not super difficult. That as long as you're pressing your few buttons here and there, it's you probably won't. It's not like in WoW or something where you're like you have this complex rotation, and if you're not doing it precisely, then you're doing like 30 or 40% less damage overall or something like. So I don't think the benefit is going to be too great there. That being said, even in P99, like I find parsing fights can be useful for that information, but it's just not that type of game where it really matters that much, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This is coming again. This is coming from somebody who, if I'm not number one on the DPS meters, I feel a great shame.
I don't think I've ever seen DPS meters used to promote some positive conversation. I'd be curious on that one. Main danger is when the parsing becomes a bigger game than the game itself. It's not rare to see people sabotaging themselves and in turn their group by focusing DPS over all other aspects.
Yeah, true. I willing to admit that I actively endanger our raid sometimes to DPS higher.
Yeah. I mean, so Thakor said the days of everyone living in blissful ignorance is kind of gone, right? The internet and the gaming audience was very different in 1999. Kinda. And again, this may just be my personal ignorance. Maybe I'm out of touch. Maybe that's what happens when you get to a certain point in either your age or career or whatever. Or I think that a certain amount of that goes into a certain amount of that responsibility falls on the game developer. So speaking of Palia, if Palia has like a slew of hardcore guilds at the leading edge of their content that are min-maxing their knitting rotations or whatever they wind up doing in there, their room design feng shui optimization with 5 parsers and blah 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 blah, then I'll concede. Or we can look at it and go, the game's not built around catering to that audience. And so if people go in there and like, how the fuck do I min-max this to death, bro? I gotta get to the end. I gotta own all the shit. But and they go, this isn't that type of game. You can either just kind of enjoy the content that we have, or you can go play some other shit. Then I'd be curious to see like whether or not I'm completely wrong on that. I know it's this is on the internet for forever or whatever. When we post the VOD to YouTube, but it's we'll see. I don't know. If people are just like, I would say if 99% of the people out there that are interested in our game are like really just feel like they need to play it a specific way, and the thing I keep saying is not that, then I guess maybe I can concede that I'm just super off base. But I like somebody said something about on one of the forums. I like the idea of being able to eat a sandwich while I play, and yeah, again, it's the kind of chat room with dragons, which it's funny because I know like every MMO content creator on YouTube is like, bro, the days of people being social in MMOs are over because we have Facebook and Discord now. And it's like, but they're also the same people that are saying you need to put every bit of information into the game so people don't have to use the internet outside the game. So sometimes I get confused, but I kind of like the idea of just, trying to focus on that experience that makes it a little more, a little easier, a little more reasonable for you to be able to communicate and hang out and chill and chat at a camp in game. And a lot of stuff is either obfuscated or just intended for players to find and then put on a wiki somewhere. And, you know, if you want to have a wiki open with all of the maps and all the spell lists and all the other stuff next to you, beautiful. I think that's fantastic. I love it. Zoidberg said, just don't handhold, please, every game these days. And I'm not picking on the games, but I can look at other games that are available at the moment or on their way out or whatever, and I look at the information that they provide in game. I look at the information and sort of the approach that they use in their UIs and everything else, and I'm like, that exists if somebody wants it. Has Project Gorgon suffered DPS meter bros issue? I don't know. It's a good question. I know I could have sworn when they were adding group content that they started to run into some interesting conundrums, just mainly though because the game wasn't super group content focused from the onset. But Nicodemus said, I've never understood the thought of playing a game for just to get to the end game. Like, did they not enjoy playing the levels between? I think well, first of all, it's human nature. I mean, even playing our game, I look to see, like, am I leveling? Where am I at, right? Like, and then, you know, the desire to sort of maximize efficiency is kind of human. But I do think there are things that we can do to help make it so that so that it's less of a focus, just because you also know that, one, there are things that you want to do, or there are things to do during that process that are interesting, and two, you know the process isn't going to go super fast, so you might as well stop asking, are we there yet?